Oh, look at that quiet. Oh, here we are. Good evening and welcome to the Chaska City Council meeting for Monday, December 2nd, 2019. We'll call the meeting to order at 7. Will you please stand, remove your hats if you would, please, and join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Usually when I look out and see a full house, it's a scary meeting. Either something's really wrong or it's going to be a long night. But hopefully this is an exciting night. So with that, I'm going to keep going and we'll get right to you here in a couple minutes. So with that, Nate, will you call roll, please?
Councilmember Hatfield.
Here.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Grau.
Here.
Mayor Winchell.
Here. That moves us to item 4, adopting the agenda. Are there corrections or additions to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wong.
Second.
Who was that?
That was me, Hubbard.
Second by Councilmember Hubbard to adopt the agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moves us on to visitor presentation, and for the folks at home and all you standing in the back, we got 1.2 million viewers, so who's ever getting up speaking tonight, got a lot of people that you're talking to, so. But anyways, tonight we have the champion Chaska Hawks football team, 5A football team is here tonight, and we would just like to recognize them. I'm going to start off with a proclamation for you, and I'll probably give that to you, Coach Dahl, and then we'll have a few of your players come up, or however you're going to handle it. I'm going to kind of let you guys run with that show. Proclamation, Chaska High School 5A Prep Bowl victory. Whereas never giving up requires serious energy and within oneself, dedication, sacrifice, and pure will of heart. And whereas the Chaska High School football team showed their will through talent, hard work, sportsmanship this past Saturday during the 5A Prep Bowl against St. Thomas Academy. And whereas the will of the 2019 Chaska High School football team enabled these student athletes to earn a state championship title. And whereas winning the 2019 Class 5A Prep Bowl championship brought honor to Chaska High School and the city of Chaska on local and state level. Whereas head coach Brian Dahl and his staff, team members, student body, parents, faculty at Chaska High School were all integral in guiding this team to victory through its unwavering support. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Chaska, Minnesota, the 2nd day of December 2019, that the City of Chaska hereby recognize and heartily congratulate the Chaska High School and the 2019 state championship football team on this outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations. How about a round of applause? Coach Dahl, I'll give you this. And wherever you say. This could be your new.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I have a locker room. Appreciate it.
But just maybe you got a few words you'd like to share.
Yeah. So, first off, thank you guys for having us. Thank you for support. We want to certainly thank these guys. We have a tremendous group of young men and student athletes. So thank you for honoring us here tonight with this. Thank you for what you do for these young men as student athletes, for what you do for the city of Chaska and for Chaska High School. We're honored to be here and very appreciative of you guys inviting us tonight. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
I'll invite captains to come up, and if you guys want to say anything, take a look at our guys. So we've got, the cool thing with this group, obviously a lot of success on the football field, but this is a group that, and we've gone after it here for about 6 months now, 5-6 days a week for 6 months, and this is just a tremendous group of young men to be around. I know for myself, like I sat around yesterday and kind of bored. Just we didn't have anything to game plan for and get ready for. And I know this week's going to be a little weird, all the free time. My wife's happy to have me home and some free time, but we're going to miss not only just these guys and seniors and the football team as a whole, but just the chemistry that we had And just this group, how they cared for each other, took care of each other, and just played like crazy, crazy hard for each other. So it was truly a fun day. Everything we're doing during the week in practices, games certainly on Fridays, and then Saturday mornings our workouts and weight room stuff. We're going to miss this great group of boys. So thank you guys very much for
Well, you know what,
having
you
us.
could still hold two-a-day practices.
We could, yeah. We'd probably get some of these guys to show up.
Except for the basketball coaches, they probably won't be
Yeah.
happy
We
yet.
got guys that got to get to other sports, so we like our multi-sport athletes, so.
That's
Is there
awesome.
anything you guys want to say or questions or anything else?
Just, if you would, just state your name.
I'm Mark Slosik. I just want to thank our community for coming out to the state game. There's a lot of people there. It helped with energy, and it was just really cool coming out of the tunnel and seeing everyone. Then I want to thank all of our boosters for donating and the companies that help with our hot cards and people buying them. That helps support us with equipment, meals, and everything else. So that's a big part in this game, too, keeping everyone safe and healthy throughout the season. So thank you.
Thank you. That was one of the things that I noticed the most at the Welcome Home was how you guys all mentioned how much the community did for you. I mean, you don't usually expect that. You just won the state championship, but you talked about how much the community really made a difference to you. And I mean, I don't remember who said it. One of you even just said that they wanted to thank the city of Chaska. And I thought, as a mayor, that was a proud moment for me to see that you guys really recognized that the support behind you. So I can't remember who said it. One of you five said it. But anyways, thank you for that. So, all right, sorry. Come on. Somebody. All right, I'll ask a question, then you guys figure out. 3 minutes left, fourth quarter. Not much has happened. What did it feel like? Tech to be the little guy, huh? If anybody wants pictures, you're certainly welcome. Please come behind us. So, you're welcome to do that. All right, Griff.
When we got that ball back, we were all confident. I was confident in everybody. There was not a doubt in my mind that we wouldn't go down and win. Coach Dahl told us before that drive that we're going to get the ball back. And just go down and do your thing and win the game.
That was it? It was just that easy? There was nothing to it?
Sounds easy, yeah.
I watched 3.5 quarters, and not much was going back and forth. And just like that, we could just get out there and get her done. How about some?
A testament to these kids too, right, with the, just that buy-in and that mentality where first drive, everything started out pretty good and get points on the board, and then, afterwards to where we couldn't consistently sustain drives, but for our kids to have that belief and that never give up and just perseverance to go down and score and guys to make plays when they had the opportunity to was pretty awesome and a great finish to the ballgame.
Somebody else?
I'll go.
There you go.
I gotta admit, I was a little nervous.
Name, please, first.
Eric Spielberger.
Thank you.
And I was a little nervous when we went out there to huddle up. But then I realized, I looked around, and I saw all my brothers standing by me, and I was like, why am I nervous? I've been with these guys for 6 months. I've put my trust in with them for these 6 months. And then I looked up to the crowd, and I saw our whole town just behind us had our back. And after that, everything went away, and I felt completely confident we were going to win.
That was, I thought was another interesting point about how you talked about how they're all your brothers, about how you bonded together, and that's so important, especially in that moment that you talk about how you look around and you go, hey, these are my brothers, we're going, let's get her done. So, those are important characteristics for our team to have, and everything that I've heard you guys as you speak, you had that, and you really expressed that through this whole process, and I think that's why you are where you are. And when you had to you needed one drive, you're always one drive away, and lo and behold, you took it right down and had all the rest of us not sure what happened. But I thought that was important. But sometimes you got to have that little extra special thing out there to help you through it, and I had it. You guys didn't know that, did you? Right here it is. Right here it is. 1972 game jersey, baby. This is what brought it. Right here. Max, who looks better, me or you in this? Yeah, that's what I thought. Really. Took years to mold this body into this jersey. But this is what, I have not had this out, even when my son played in the early 90s, and they got caught in a Halloween blizzard and went to the Metrodome early, but something about this team made me find this jersey on Thanksgiving alumni practice and bring it out, and I wore it to the game on Saturday, because I knew you might have needed that little extra piece, and I brought it with. So, but I don't know if there's anybody as proud as myself that you guys got this. I mean, this has been something, as a guy that played, a graduate, obviously, this is the one thing that we've just hungered for in the football season. And I'm so happy and excited, and thank you guys for doing that. And the stories that you told at the welcome home and a little bit here just makes it even that much more special. So thank you guys. And I don't know, anybody else, you're free to.
Well, I don't know how we follow that up, Mayor.
I don't have a secret jersey.
Well, somebody had to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, although, it's for, I know, like, watching the game, I mean, it was pretty electric up in the stands, and the one thing I have to say is, like, looking across in St. Thomas Academy, it's a different thing because they're not representing a city, it's a private school, right? But for us to look out back in the stands and see hundreds and hundreds of people back in the stands that were, a lot of people didn't have kids in high school and, just wanted to see the game just to cheer on, our home team. And not even go to the Gophers game for that matter, right? It was like pretty electric. And I don't know, for us, like I can tell you that probably like half of us were about to have a heart attack about last minute of the game. So I don't know how you guys did it. So, kudos. And, it was an amazing game. As you all know, defense wins championships, right? So great job offense and defense. So.
I would just add, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm a bandwagon jumper. A busy life with young kids. I didn't get to a lot of games, but we were there. And just keep in mind that you inspire the future generations, right? Because I plan on living here a long time. They're going to be Chaska Hawks. I like to tell them that I was a Hawk too, because I was a Thunder Hawk where I grew up. So a little bit of a.
Is that kind of like a Thunder Chicken?
Yeah, kind of. We could have been the Hawks, but we decided to have Thunder in front of it. But I think that's important to understand too. When you build a program and inspiring the future generations and having them see that moment, and all the kids in the stands having them see that moment, that you guys really should take some pride to as well, because that's an inspiration to them. They're going to remember that. They're going to want to play. They're going to want to repeat that. They're going to want to do that. And that's how teams build. This might be the first one, but it's not going to be the last one.
Thank you. Anyone else out there have anything you want to say? Vikings, that's all I'm hearing.
Before they go, I would
I want-
highly suggest.
I want
that they
I'd like to get all the players and coaches, if you'd come behind us and get a photo. I don't know, should I cover up my jersey or leave it on?
You should definitely wear it.
You gotta do.
There's a lot of holes in it. It hasn't been in a wash machine because I don't think it'd come out in one piece. You guys are gonna have to get real tight, otherwise their cameras won't get wide enough, so.
Huddle on in.
Yep.
Turn sideways, do whatever you gotta do. Max, where's your jersey?
It's all muscle too, right?
All right, can you guys get everybody? Do they need to come in tighter? Everybody good? Nobody's saying nothing. All right, 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right. Pretty quiet. All right, we done? So what's it feel like today now?
Oh, it's weird.
Huh?
It's weird. It hit like 250. I was like, I should really be at the high school. Yeah. You get in a routine for 6 months and pop right out of it.
I don't know, like I said, I just kind of wonder what it has to feel like now after it's kind of sunk in a little bit and it's final, and so.
I would say, as an alumni of Chaska, almost 20 years, I am very grateful to you guys for all your hard work. It was an amazing moment, an amazing season, amazing game. And I also, for any of the parents of these players that are behind us here, everybody makes, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So you guys all put in a lot of sacrifice and effort as well. So I congratulate everybody that was involved.
And one last thing for me is that, just think about this, the past couple of days, this will be history for generations of people to come to say, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, you'll come back to your 50-year reunion and be like, yeah, remember we were the first team that won that state title.
Oh, yeah.
You will always have that.
Awesome. All right. Very good.
Thank
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Coach. John, did you want to say anything? What's that? Did you want to say, come on up and just say something while they're kind of filing out? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Why didn't your dad come?
I don't know.
What the heck? I figured he'd be here.
I'll maybe talk as they're walking out. Just a few things. It's always fun for me as the AD to listen to the kids talk a little bit. The community piece. I don't even think the kids understand how much of what they did and how that builds and enhances our community. I mean, one of the proudest moments I have is just looking back and seeing so much of our community out there to support these kids. I think about when they talk about, this brotherhood and trusting each other. And when I think about sports and what it meant to me and I want it to mean for these kids, and I know our coaches do a fantastic job with this. I mean, that's the purpose, right? How do you, in that moment when, things are pretty intense, they look to each other. They find other people to rely on to help them get through those things. And believe me, I'm the happiest person we won. But I also know sports sometimes teaches you, there's some of those tough losses too, but the same thing applies. Like, you're gonna need to rely on people, your teammates, your brothers, your family. And to me, this is my 7th year here as an administrator at Chaska High School. And I've had a privilege of being in education for 19 years. This is an incredible community to be a part of. I mean, it really is. I have not experienced anything like this in my professional career. The relationships that I've been able to have with people here in the city that help support our kids and our programs. For all those folks here, I thank you. I'm so proud of these kids and what they accomplished, and you're right, they made history. This is something that no one can ever take away. It's something that hasn't happened in 100 and some years of Chaska High School existence, and so they deserve all the attention that they're getting. They deserve to be super proud, and I hope at some point they do truly, I think as they get older and they get involved in their own communities, see how they can do the things that this community has helped them be a part of as well. So thank you for all that you guys do. Thank you for having them here tonight to celebrate them. And again, just a huge congratulations to our state champion Chaska Hawks football team.
Exactly. One thing that I just want to kind of close, and you guys can certainly leave after that, is the fact that, we've kind of had a tough few 6 months here with Chaska High School, the equity and inclusion stuff and the referendum, whether you were against it or for it, however. But I think now this is such positive news that any of that comes up, I can say, hey, did you hear we won the state championship? And we can change the subject right away. So that is something that I think that you've done for Chaska High School, and you've certainly done for the city of Chaska. And that's another thing that's just huge for us as all together as a community. So with that, I'm done. So thank you, guys. Get home and watch the Vikings. Thank you very much. Text the city score updates. See you, everyone. Thanks. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Parents, thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll just let a second here or two go, and
It's by the largest crowd who had to file out of here in a
yeah,
while.
we're filing out pretty quietly.
Yeah.
All right, next on our agenda, under visitor presentation, is a proclamation in recognition of Barbara Collhapp. And Barbara, I don't know, are you able to come up? Pardon? Okay. As Barbara's heading up here, I think I'm going to go ahead and start the proclamation, and I'll come out and present it to her. I got to get glasses, sorry. So proclamation in recognition of Barbara Collhapp. Whereas Barbara Collhapp has lived in Chaska for over 47 years, served on the Chaska Human Rights Commission, Carver County Library Board, Library Foundation of Carver County, and Friends of the Library. In 2019, Barbara was honored as the 2019 Chaska Human Rights Award winner for her decades of service and dedication to advancing opportunity and human rights in our community through education. Barbara was a teacher for over 20 years as an English as a second language teacher. She led a project for national issues forums for the New Reader, which targeted adult basic education students in Carver and Scott counties, inmates of correctional institution, and Indian tribes along with others. Barbara initiated the Chaska Community Center Lodge Discussion Group with discussions for active older adults on a wide variety of topics with guest speakers. Barbara is indeed beloved by many and a true mentor to many others. She continues to stay involved and active with issues that affect people's lives. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Mark Winshuttle, the mayor of the city of Chaska, on behalf of the city council and the citizens of Chaska, do hereby honor Barbara Collhapp for her many years of dedication, mentorship, and community service. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and the seal of the city of Chaska on the 2nd day of December in the year of our Lord, 2019. So that's quite an accomplishment.
Yes.
And Barb has truly been around for a long time. She's still very active in, I call it the Wednesday morning group up at the community center where
Thursday.
is it Thursdays? One of them days of the week anyways, but she's very active in there. I just saw her when we had our training up at the community center. I saw you in there. I was waving at you, but you were busy talking and didn't see me, so. But I do want to present this to you and say thank you for everything that you've done. And I know that you're a long ways from being done yet, because I know you're still very active.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. But we just, and I knew that you had you left the library and things like that, so.
Well, thank you, Mark.
But we wanted to recognize you, and by all means, I hope you have a few words for us, because you always have words of wisdom for us.
We could use it.
So, thank you.
Yes. Well, the thing I want to say is that I'm really glad I could serve on a commission for the city of Chaska after hearing about the difficulty in getting citizens to help along and help make decisions rather than leaving it up to you fine people. We have had a chance to maybe influence and to make just suggestions. And that's been, I think, a good point for getting other people to want to serve on a commission rather than having to advertise it and advertise the opening. So they can see that this is at the end of your journey. You have to accept this, as this is it. And I'm grateful for it. And it's been fun. And I would recommend to anybody that they try to help their community, just like the football team, we think has made a big influence on our community. And I know I can't compete with what they did this week, but I'm glad that other people can see there's a chance to influence you people by serving on a commission, maybe.
But Barbara, you have. Now, wasn't just this week, it was a journey. It's been years and years, just like you've been doing for years and years. You've always been part of something. You might have left something, but then you got re-involved in something else.
And it's been fun. It hasn't been a hardship at all. It's been something one accepts because you like to influence. You like to have an impact when you leave the community. That there's a reason that you did this, and I encourage everybody in the community to honestly consider a way that they can come and influence the community as the football team did. Okay, thank you.
I guarantee you that Barbara's next big influence that she's going to have on us is a new library.
I just want to say, as I had an honor and a privilege of serving with you on the Human Rights Commission for those years. And I think the amazing thing about Barbara is that Barbara termed out, because you can only do 3 terms, and then you know, you're done. And she paused for a year. And then she went back, and I think you did 3 more full terms, right?
Fun.
I mean, that's, you know, that's a lot of time spent, and you had to, you know, you were just roll up your sleeves, let's get this done. Just so enjoyable, just really privileged to know you and help serve with you, so.
Thank you for those kind words. Okay.
I've known the family for a long time. Her husband Ted was my teacher in school. Don't ask me what grade, somewhere in there,
Okay,
somewhere in the middle school.
okay,
All right.
that's right. All right,
All
thank
right.
you, all of you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thanks for coming in. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks for everything you've done. I'm going to ask, but I think I'm wasting my time. Anyone else for visitor presentation? And there's no one else here, so we're going to go ahead and move on to, where am I here? Approve previous meeting minutes. Again, if there are no corrections or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hubbard,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield to approve the previous meeting minutes. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moves us on to item 7, consent agenda, items that need our approval but not necessarily need to talk about, but we can if need be. So with that, any discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I was just curious on one thing.
Yep.
It's more just like a curiosity than anything. For the prosecution contract, I was just wondering, is that like a normal amount for it to go up? It's not that big in the scheme of things, but I was just wondering what that normally.
Yeah, so to answer that question, yeah, it is. We've actually had a couple of years where it hasn't gone up at all.
Oh, okay.
So they base it, based completely on our usage. Sorry. They base that completely based on our usage of it over, so they look at an average over time, but it's based on how much we actually utilize that service. So it's you know, not an unusual amount to go up, but there's certain years we haven't seen it go up at all.
Okay. I was just curious.
You know, one thing I will point out about that, and Luke says it all the time, is this is very efficient government. To have cities partnering together to do prosecution. If we didn't do this, we'd have to go out and have our own attorney do this, and it'd be significantly more expensive to do this. Plus, I think we get a much better service down there because they're physically in the courthouse. They can show up at pre-hearings. They can show up for just the smallest little things that if we had to have somebody coming from some other office to do it, would be very cost prohibitive for us. So I think, I don't know who started this, but this is very cost effective for us.
Going
to
our
do
neighbors
this.
to the east, they do it the other way. They hire an attorney.
Yep. Yep.
We started this back when Judge Fay started, and Bill Glazer was the county attorney. It was like 1968 or 69.
Okay.
Cool, thank you. That's my only question.
Anyone else have a question? I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Grah. Second. Second by Councilmember Wong to approve consent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Post same sign. Motion carries. Moves on to item 8, which is this is a public hearing. It's Truth and Taxation Annual Hearing.
So Mayor and council members, this is going to be something that you've already seen, so this might be a little boring to you. But part of the whole budget process each year, especially for establishing our tax levy, is that we have to go through a very specified process set out by state statute. So the first process we did back in the last meeting of September, which is establishing the preliminary levy. Those levies then are taken from each jurisdiction and put on your preliminary tax statement, which was sent out to people just a couple of weeks ago, that both indicated what the change in each jurisdiction's levy would have on your overall taxes, but also then gave people the ability to, or notified them of this meeting tonight in case they had any questions or comments or concerns based on that. So I thought Uterman was here for a second to.
No, he was here for Barbara.
No, so this is the, one of the things that we're required to do is to have a public hearing that basically lays out what our proposed tax levy is. We cannot adopt the levy tonight. We have to just accept any comments and then move on to the December 16th meeting is when we actually consider doing this. So since you guys have seen this, I'll zip through it. We're going to talk about our CIP program and projects we have next year. Our tax levy policy, and then our staffing study results. Our objectives for a 5-year have been something that we based our budget on for the last several years, and really sort of get back to how do we end up meeting our mission of being the best small town in Minnesota, and how do we have our service levels and resources for those service levels set to be able to meet that mission. So our budget environment for this year, we've seen property values continue to modestly increase since the end of the last recession. The increase for 2019 for taxes payable 2020 actually is the largest increase we've seen for quite some time, 9.14%, with 1.35% of that growth coming from new growth. We practically see no local government aid anymore, which I'll explain how that's impacted us going from when we lost it. Our building permits have continued to remain strong, especially with residential, but we haven't seen as much commercial industrial because we're running out of land. That'll change as we open up the interchange property up there, but it does reduce the amount of financial impact that the building permits have when it's mainly focused on residential. We're steadily seeing our population continue to increase. Our electric usage has continued to go up significantly, and we continue to have a good balance of development in the community. So this gives a breakdown for 2020. You can see 9.14% here is the overall increase. In the residential, we saw a 9.09% increase. 7.67% of that was in existing property. So the average home out there saw their property value go up by about 7.67%. The largest increase we saw was in apartments, which we saw a 15.56% increase. 12.44% of that is in existing properties, which means that we still have a very high demand for apartment units within the community. This is a breakdown of how that breaks out into different categories. Commercial industrial is 14%, residential 72%, apartments are 13%, and other is like ag property that's undeveloped is about 1%.
How is, not to kind of jump a little bit, Jonathan Flats, have they filled, or where are they at as
I think we heard they were at
apartment building?
40%.
That's the last we heard.
That's the last we heard, which was a few weeks ago.
What was that?
40%?
40%
Vacant.
occupancy.
40% occupancy.
Occupancy.
Yep.
That's odd, because I remember when we were there, they said that they were like halfway filled, and they were hoping to be filled by this time.
I don't know that we're actually working with the guy who did that, is really seeing success there, and to the point where he's actually looking at doing another project in town. So he's viewing their rate of occupancy as being pretty positive right now.
Apparently that's fairly normal.
A few weeks back that we got the 40% number, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's changed. Yeah.
And I just asked,
time of year
because
for that,
that's the newest apartment building I could think
Yep.
of, and, because I know that apartment, wants are way higher than most cities have available. So that's why I was kind of curious how that was moving along.
Yeah, he seems to be very pleased with it because he's interested in doing another project, so. So our market values, this shows where our growth has gone over time. You can see basically when the recession started and then it went down, which was the first time that I know of in recent history that our property values actually went down. It took until 2016 to actually get our property values back from when the recession happened.
See that big dip? That's just when I started.
Right
What
there.
does that tell you?
That was the low point of the community, 2010. No.
But it's only gone up from there.
That's right.
But you can see we've rebounded nicely now, and this is assuming a 2% growth going into the future. We've actually seen an average of about 5.46% increase. So we would expect, unless something really changes, to see that continue to go up. This is something I like to point out, that even during those recession times, those low periods of 2010 in time here, that
Remember, you were here too.
yeah, I know. Even during those times, we saw growth in the community, which was really positive. And then the annual new growth, as far as value, almost $70 million in new construction growth in 2017, get to $50 million in 2018, and about $40.5 million in 2019. So our value, as far as the amount of new value has changed, but that's been mainly because it's been more residential than commercial industrial.
So the dip is purely commercial industrial?
It's a lack of land. In fact, we were just talking about this today, that if you've seen up on Halasik's old property, where the nursery used to be,
Yeah.
they have now sold out on that, and that was a really difficult site to work with, which to me indicates how much demand there is for industrial property. We are in discussions now with the property owners out at the interchange, and they are very eager to move forward next summer with opening up some more industrial land out there. Local government aid, so 2000, between 2004 and now, basically we've seen $1 million decrease. Quite frankly, I think this is where we started to have the biggest issues with our staffing shortages, is that we absorbed $1 million hit. We didn't lose staff, but we weren't able to gain staff as the community continued to grow. We sort of fluctuated back and forth, but right now we're at $14,000 we get from the state for local government aid. So pretty much nothing, and that's how we expect it to continue into the future. As far as expected building permit revenue, we are trying to be more conservative, since we're still looking at primarily residential next year. And so we brought our number for budgeting purposes down to $900,000, which is a decrease of about $300,000 from where we budgeted last year, just because we just don't think we'll see the values in residential that we do in commercial industrial for next year. So we want that to be a little bit closer to that.
So will that change now with the project, by the school there, that commercial project? And where was the other commercial project we just approved? Wasn't there 2 commercial projects we approved at the last meeting?
Well, there was one industrial building that was a concept approval, which is right next to the school. So that's more of an office industrial building.
But there was.
Oh, and then there was also the office next to the dental building.
Off the,
Oh, yep.
Yep.
That's what
And
it was.
you know, if
But
the,
we added on to the one right on 41 there.
Yep,
flexible.
American Flexible Products.
Yes.
It wasn't it's a huge expansion for them. It wasn't a huge expansion compared to some of the big ones. And the ones like the one up by the dental clinic, those are more built like residential, so their values are more like a bigger residential home.
Okay.
So our population, we have adjusted it to be, we've seen the last couple of years be more like 120 new units, and so we've adjusted a little bit to sort of show where we think we'll be at the end of this 5-year period. So in 2020, we expect we're going to be right around 27,000 residents, and that we increase by about 1,300 to 1,500 residents by the end of this 5-year planning period. Now that could completely change now that the interchange is open, because I do expect a lot of that residential property is going to start to pop real quick now. So we have, we call this a franchise fee, but it's a 10% electric transfer to our general fund. This is something that's grown pretty significantly over the years. So 10% of our profits go as a franchise fee from the electric fund to our general fund. You can see in 2020, that's going to be about $4 million that will come to the general fund. and is a pretty significant part of our overall general fund budget. It ends up being about 30% of it. So major discussion items. First one is a staffing study. This comes out of our 2017 council department head retreat, where we really recognized that there was a need to understand the staffing shortages that we had. And so from that came out of that hiring our financial consultant to do a staffing study to really sort of look at two things. Look at any gap in current employment that we currently have, but then also looking at what do we need to do to prepare as we go out to full development. And so the two findings they had there was that we are about 16 employees short now, and that we needed to plan for an additional 57 employees between now and full development. The future employee breaks down to about 2.86 employees per year, which actually is a little bit slower of a rate of bringing on new employees than we've seen the last 20 years. So that sort of matches up with what type of pace we would expect to see anyway. And what we try to do there is to capture the new growth that comes in to be able to add those positions as we move forward. So the different areas that we had for the gap currently they identified, the biggest one is in our building maintenance. And that's the one that we have about, we have no building maintenance department now. We do it sort of piecemeal based on different buildings, and we don't have a centralized one, which really impacts our ability to have something that's putting the same resources and the same methodology and everything towards every building that we have, so that we have some consistency in how we take care of buildings, that we have some expertise on staff. We end up having to contract out a lot of the stuff like HVAC and roofing and all that type of stuff now, which gets expensive, and also helps with some of the things that we do with consolidating our purchasing too, for the different supplies that we have in buildings. As we talked about back during the preliminary tax levy process, when we established that, really the plan that we laid out was not to do fill the gap in 1 year, but look at this over a 4-year period. And that really the total gap was about $2 million, $1.5 million of that coming from a general fund, so tax levy supported, and $500,000 coming from the enterprise funds. And to reach that $1.5 million gap over the 4 years would require a $375,000 additional levy increase each of the 4 years to be able to make that up. This is a plan very similar to how we implemented our capital improvement program a few years ago, where we identified we had about $1 million gap, and we basically took off $250,000 a year up to 2017, and now we have a fully funded program where each year we can schedule $1 million of improvements to do to our existing assets. We've talked about this, just sort of indicating where our community is at. Value of city services is the highest it's been at 87% right now. Very positive ratings for each of our services within the community. That people prioritize, especially the basic services that we have, but really see some importance in really all the services that we provide. There are certain services that they particularly support increasing funding on to make sure that they stay properly funded, and at the very least maintain. The ones that we see people focus on cutting are typically the ones that are more discretionary. So it might be the town course or community center. Now, as we've talked about, those are not property tax levy supported entities. They're supported by the users that actually use them. So they're not ones that generally impact our tax levy. And then, the big one was talking about maintaining our services, and would people support a property tax increase to maintain services? And really what we're talking about here is not increasing services, it's really properly staffing to be able to maintain the services that we have over time. And you can see here that 68% of our residents supported increasing property taxes if that meant maintaining the service levels that we have. So if we implemented the first phase of the staffing study for 2020, we'd really be focusing first and foremost on that building maintenance division to get that up and going. So we'd have 3 positions of the 6 that would be for next year. Water and sewer maintenance worker would be the one enterprise one that we had already planned for and talked about at our last work session, but we had already planned for in the past. And then having $125,000 that would go towards funding our actual budget for building maintenance activities.
I want to make one comment on that slide.
Yep.
That it does say wage and benefits, that's not
Yes.
salaries.
That
of
is
those
not salaries,
individuals.
that is wage and benefits.
Just because I know there's maybe a miscommunication there prior.
Asked that before,
I got-
I was gonna clarify that as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it is.
It is wage and benefits. Yep,
It's a good clarification.
yep. So that's our staffing study and what we recommend for next year. From an operational tax levy policy, so our policy focuses on establishing a levy based on factors that actually impact our cost of services. So that includes the inflationary, the impact of inflation on our expenditures, but also the new growth that directly impacts the cost of services we provide. So as we add new people in the community to provide the same service, we need to have additional resources to be able to do that. So our policy, which we established back in 2014, I believe it was to basically say that we would increase our tax levy on an annual basis based on inflation plus new growth in the community, and that we'd only go beyond that if we had some kind of a new program that we were trying to do, which in this case would be our staffing study, and that would be levied at the amount of the actual cost of that service. So those 3 things together for 2020, so the new growth is 1.35%, inflation is running at 3%, so our tax levy policy would say we'd be at 4.35%, plus our staffing study of $375,000 is an additional 4.04%, which brings our total increase up to about 8.6%, which is less than our tax capacity increase. Our tax capacity increase was 9.7%, which means our tax rate's actually going to go down for next year. So it's under our old policy, we basically levied based on the amount of tax capacity growth we saw in the community. So to keep a constant tax rate, in this case, if we have a 9.7% increase in tax capacity, we'd increase our levy by 9.7% and the tax rate would stay constant. So under our new policy, we actually levy less than what our old policy would have called for. And then finally, our capital improvement programs. This is the $1 million a year that we put back into investing into existing assets. We have a lot of projects next year that we're doing. First of all, the street overlay program, $375,000. That'll be in the Christian Drive and Manuela Drive area will get overlaid. We have $60,000 of seal coating to do. We have not identified the specific project for that yet. Trail upgrades and overlays, we do $60,000 a year, so you can get 1 mile overlaid for $20,000. We have about 75 miles of paved trails out there. So we basically get 3 miles of trails each year repaved with that. We have a new pedestrian bridge on our main trail that needs to get installed. We have some sports courts resurfacing at our parks around the community. Siren number 6 needs to get replaced. Our firewalk station sidewalk replacement is scheduled for next year. We have annual work that needs to be done to our MSB building for $45,000. And the 3 sort of park-related projects that we have for next year. So Cortina Woods Park rehab is scheduled at $135,000. Clover Hockey Rink rehab is at $70,000. And then Brickyard Lake Pier rehab, so this is the one that's behind Cooper's down here. The one that's, heaved up right now, would get replaced at 40,000, which actually goes good with this last year. They did, actually just last few weeks, did the replacement of the whole landscaping wall along there. So those two projects sort of play together.
That, was that ours or was that private?
That was ours.
What happened? Was it given out?
It completely failed. It's been failing.
Oh.
Yeah. It's been failing for a couple of years now.
Is there still gonna be a fountain in that lake?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The big one.
Little things.
Yeah, it's the big one.
So is, that pedestrian bridge, is that on the new trail off of 41? Is that?
No, that's a different,
That's the
Okay.
yeah.
Why did,
We're working on bringing something back for you on that. That, we don't consider that a capital improvement project because it's new.
okay.
Yeah, we consider that more of a new project, and so we'll be bringing back that project to you to show how that's gonna happen.
You know, as we are continuing to grow here, I know that we've added one siren already. Do we, is that something where we have to be adding a new siren before long? Are we pretty good?
We're
shape?
pretty good right now.
Okay.
In fact, thinking where we place them, I'm not so sure that we're gonna necessarily need to place.
Yeah, one that should cover quite a, that.
Yeah, I
quite
mean, we
area to-
put the new one up in the southwest Chaska, and then we put one up in the Chevelle area too. So until you start to see stuff develop in that McKnight Road area, that might be the only place that still has a hole in it.
Okay.
So the major new things we talked about, the first year of the staffing study implementation, our plan dollars for employee wage and benefit increases. So 2020 is the second year of our 2-year contract for our contract employees. And so that's such a 3% increase in wages and a 6% increase in our employee benefit contribution. We have a cafeteria plan that people utilize. And then this is more just a point. So we had the pay equity study that we did in 2019. That was actually adopted, but we didn't have it part of last year's budget. So this is the first time you'll actually see it in the budget. But basically those recommendations from that pay equity study that was approved last year show up in this year's budget. We fully fund our equipment acquisition, and then all other items remain unchanged. So, you know, basically, let's flip forward to this. The impact for, so we look at a median value home in 2019 was $260,200. That's median value home in 2020 is $288,900. So that that example home would be a $70 increase in taxes, or about $5 per month. Again, given that we've seen a 9.7% increase in our tax capacity, we'll actually see our tax rate go down by 1.59%. And what, I always throw this out as a disclaimer. This is an example home. What happens at your home is completely dependent on your value. We just want to just give a sense of what would happen to a median value home. And I think the important thing to point out here is we continue to be very low compared to metro area. This is, Chaska is the 7th lowest tax levy per capita. This is comparing to, I had mentioned this back before, they still haven't changed on the Department of Revenue site. They still have 2018 data up, and this is our 2020 data. So this is comparing us to city taxes 2 years ago. So I would expect that we're probably at the 82nd mark based on how things have likely changed. Which is exactly the same place we've been, is exactly the same place that we've been for a decade. We really haven't changed our position in that, and not that I'm pointing out, but here's Chanhassen, so. So for 2020, we'll continue to be 7th or 8th lowest, depending on what data you look at. And we continue to have the lowest tax levy per capita in Carver County. This looks at our actual proposed general fund revenues. The big thing I'll point out in this, and I pointed out at the last, when we did the preliminary levy, if you remember, we shifted $355,000 of levy from the EDA into the general fund because that's basically where the the impact occurs. So $355,000 of this is actual transfer of the levy from the EDA into here. So it doesn't have any impact on taxpayers because it went down in the EDA by 355.2. So if you took that out, we'd have about a 10.1% increase in our actual revenues coming in. So again, we saw the 8.6% increase in our levy, but then we also had things going up like our electric franchise fee, things like that, as far as other revenue coming into there. And then, this is probably harder to see, but it wasn't in your packet. It basically shows that the budget would balance for next year and basically where those dollars would go. And then on the right side, I put notes just to sort of indicate if there's changes that are a little bit more major, explaining what those changes are. So, you know, it could be anything from the addition of our new building maintenance people to, in some cases, we shifted positions from one department into another. So you might see one go up a lot, but one go down. So this created sort of the explanation there. So as far as the next stages in the process, this is a truth and taxation hearing. You need to officially open it up as a public hearing, take any comments, and then we'd officially have the action being setting the adopting the final 2020 budget and establishing the final levy at the December 16th meeting. Any
Okay.
questions?
Questions for Matt? Again, for people watching, saying we're kind of going over this really fast, we've seen this multiple times over the last 3 or 4 months. We've been going through budgetary stuff in work sessions and at council meetings. So we have seen these numbers a number of times. So for us, a lot of our questions have been answered. And so I want to be clear that we're just not rushing over this, as it's not a big deal, as our budget is a big deal every year. So I just want to be clear with that. So anyone else? Okay. Oh, were you going to say something?
I just had a question in regards to the
Nope, that's
last
fine.
chart you had, Matt, with the ISD 112 maintenance. Is that on that park? Is that?
No, so we have a contract with the school district to take care of their fields. So like their football fields, their soccer fields. We don't mow them, but what we do is everything else other than mowing. So we do all the aeration, we do the fertilizing. And the reason that we did that is that we found in the years past, we're set up better to do maintenance on grass than their operations are. And there was real inconsistencies between fields in the community. And so what we did is we came up with a contract to take over all that stuff that really makes the grass grow good, so that we created more consistency amongst fields, because the reality is our residents don't really care. Whether it's a school district field or a city field, we didn't want them choosing certain fields because they were better than others.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
How did that go down? Wouldn't that be going up? Or are we just?
we're doing a little bit less because like we've had some go turf.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it just, I guess I wouldn't have seen that go down. I would see that to stay fairly consistent, if not go up, just because of the cost of fertilization and stuff like that.
It's mainly due to us doing less for them. You know, they've cut back on some of the things that they've had us do.
Okay.
Like the dome took 3 fields, softball fields, baseball fields?
Took one big baseball field.
One big
Yeah.
baseball field.
Yep.
To turf, you know, as an example, right?
But some of it's been that they've cut back on some of the things that they've had us do too.
All right, anyone else?
I've said it before, and when we've gone through this stuff, I mean, I think this, to me, staffing is a big play here. I mean, people will say they have good services now. I think the study shows that, and that's largely because people are doing 125% of what they can do themselves. And over time, you know, it works well, but I do worry about, you know, burnout and fatigue and talent, you know, losing talent to individuals. So I'm really excited to be able to continue to try to address that, the staffing levels, because it's not sustainable to continue to expect to get the same level of service with the individuals that you have and you're growing on top of it. So I think that's the right thing to do, and it will, help us maintain the level of services that we're receiving and experiencing today.
I think just as important as it gives us a roadmap for the future positions too, that we're not just, guessing, but that we actually have something based on looking at what service levels are we trying to attain, and having a roadmap for that.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we're gonna go ahead, even though I know no one's here, I have to still open a public hearing. Gonna open the public hearing at 8 o'clock, and we're gonna move right forward. Unless you got anything, Mike? You're good? We'll go ahead and move to 8 o'clock.
I heard he had major complaints.
We're gonna move to 8:01 and close the public hearing. Now, we don't really need a motion here, do we?
You should make a motion to actually establish the 16th.
Okay.
Yep.
And I saw that, but I just thought that that's already established. But anyways, so with the public hearing closed, I would be interested in someone to make a motion that on December 16th is when we do the final budget approval at the Chaska City Council meeting, 7 o'clock at the council chambers.
And the EDA will be doing that night too.
And the EDA will be as well.
So I'll make a motion to close the Truth and Taxation hearing and to establish December 16th, 2019 as a date to consider adoption of the 2020 budget and tax levy.
Second?
So I have a motion by Councilmember Wong, second by Councilmember Hubbard to establish December 16th as the date for final budget levy with the, along with the EDA. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, moves us to item 9, bills. Anyone?
Sure. So let's see, I'll go with, so I have a few items here. First one is on page 1 and 2. The question, this is related to the Accent Enterprises payment for the squad cameras, training, and so forth. So the question generally is like, how many officers' vehicles does this cover, and what's the financial structure to these in terms of like the replacement cycle, and how is this financed?
So it covers all of our sworn officers have body camera. And so 26?
I believe we're currently at 24.
We have 2 coming though. Yeah, and we have 2 that are just getting added on now. So it'll be 26 total. And so basically this is an annual lease payment. So the good thing about doing a lease is that as the equipment ages, they'll replace that equipment for us. And then we'll continue that lease payment. So basically, it's an annual lease payment that we'll make going forward.
Yeah, I had a question on that same thing. So it's not like paying for new ones of those. It's like quite literally, like that's a list there of that lease payment. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So that'll be that kind of money every year?
Mm-hmm. But that also includes our storage.
Oh, that's the storage.
So as equipment and services go to storage. So for example, let's say something gets damaged in use, in field use, then that just gets replaced.
Gets replaced, and quite frankly, the storage is the expensive part.
Okay, I didn't know it was storage, that's a different thing.
That meets all the legal data retention requirements
Yep.
and stuff, right? Yeah, okay. Second question is page 2. There is a question related to like, there's like, this is under the Bauer built tire and battery. It shows like, for example, like number 109, 111, 112. And I was wondering why the numbers don't necessarily correlate to like the numbers on like the fire trucks, for example. Like if you look at the large tower truck we have, it's tower 11, and 11's like station 1 first out.
Yep.
So, but
Those are
these
city dump
different.
trucks.
Exactly.
Yeah, so these are based on, we have a centralized maintenance of our equipment, and so they assign numbers to them. Kevin Abraham, our head mechanic, does. And we use it for insurance purposes too, when we make claims on any type of damaged equipment.
Okay. Pages 3 and 4, under Bryan Rock Products, and this is for the Rockford McKnight Road, and I think this one was the general question of like, this isn't necessarily normal, this isn't the same stuff we would normally keep in inventory because it's for like something different, right?
right?
Well, we do keep this type of rock in inventory, but when we do a road grading like this, there's a lot of material that we need to get, and so we'll typically get that specifically for that project. But, one thing to point out, gravel roads are super expensive to maintain. And people think gravel roads are cheap roads. Gravel roads are super expensive to maintain, and so it won't be the worst thing in the world when we don't have a gravel road in town anymore.
You can haul and make that look really nice gravel, and by spring, you would swear you never hauled any gravel out there.
No.
It just gets eaten up in there. And the stockpile that generally is carried on hand, that's more for emergencies.
Yeah.
Like, water main breaks, middle of the night, weekends, holidays. So that stockpile is really not, they could take some there if they needed it for the gravel roads, but ideally, that stockpile is more there for emergencies, because we don't carry that much of that
Gotcha, so.
generally.
Kind of totally different purpose, and then one's
Yep.
just as you need it, the other one's really project.
It's
you know,
like
this is yeah.
spring and fall, they usually take care of the gravel roads, and then the trucks will just haul it out there, and the graders will be there grading it out, or their underbellies, whatever they're using now to grade the roads.
Because this, and so in terms of the maintenance of that road, like, this is just the product, right? So
That's just the product.
So,
That's just the product.
So like, a couple times a year, it's like, $500 worth of product.
The other thing it's not taken into consideration is we actually treat the road too.
Oh,
So we do dust control out there a couple times a year.
Oil it or whatever.
What's that?
Oil it.
It's
So-
not, it's actually like it's like a
Calcium
syrup or
chloride
something
or-
like that.
yeah.
It used to be calcium chloride, now they use like this syrupy type of
Yeah.
thing. But it's, that's a cost too. So dust control, putting in new rock, grading it, are all things that we have to do usually twice a year.
And when you dust control, then you really can't grade it, because it compacts it, and if you grade it, you lose the dust control, so it kind of, it's just one of those things that
wow.
it is what it is.
And that's not including like time and getting the equipment out there and equipment wear and tear and everything else that goes along with that.
That's just the product for the road.
Yeah.
Wow, yep. That's like twice a year or so, that adds up pretty fast. Okay. Pages 12 and 13, under Mansfield Oil Company, this is for a monthly or quarter, this is the question was generally, it was a monthly or quarterly, or is it kind of as it's needed?
Well, it's as it's needed, but basically what it is we have a tank up at the municipal service building that we get it filled, and then all of our vehicles are filled out of that, but based on, I don't know if they use a card or a code to be able to get it designated to the right departments. But this is to actually fill the underground tank that we have.
Right. And so is it, and this is, I know that being in Southwest Transit, we have a contract with the state for or you get the benefit of the state negotiated rates for fuel. Is it something that we're able to get similar rates or have a similar consortium?
Yeah, we definitely are part of something that allows us to get lower rates. I don't know if it's a state consortium, but, a lot of times the state, what they'll do is they'll actually go out and they'll bid, and there'll be multiple contractors that can actually provide it, but they have to provide it at a certain price.
We used to bid with the county, I don't know if we do anymore.
I don't know that we do anymore either.
And, there's just, sometimes you can go out on your own and almost get it, you'd think the state would have a better bid, but I don't know. They look at that, they kind of know year to year about the amount of fuel they need.
Yeah, we guess that it's relatively consistent, but, depending on the projects you got going on. Last one here, page 14, is, there's the gas under Mid-County Co-op. And is there an opportunity to, introduce or to have a little better negotiation through like leveraging of like a bulk purchasing or something like that? But, it sounds like this may be a different product than some of the other
Yeah, this
fuel
is
products.
fuel oil. So this is fuel oil that we use for our generators at buildings. And I don't know the process. We buy a lot of fuel oil each year. I'm not sure the process that Brian uses for doing that, but I can certainly find out.
I don't think it's fuel, I think it's just diesel fuel, which would be a little different, because it's
You don't
it's
think that's the
diesel.
fuel oil?
But they probably top all the tanks off from being run and tested.
Yeah.
And, you know, they could be that they just got low enough and said, now's the time, we gotta top them all off, would be my speculation on that, because Mid-County Co-op can go right to the site and do it. When we buy the oil, I think has to go to underground tanks.
Gotcha.
So,
Oh, I get
I don't know,
what you're
I'm
saying,
kind of just basing it on my old days of working there, that's probably, because I'm sure we have, I don't know how many generators we've got.
Most every building has a generator.
So being, they're usually tested each month and ran so long, they probably looked at them, so let's go around top them all off before winter.
Here's what I know, I thought they were fuel oil.
No, they'd be
Diesel.
just, it'd be just diesel.
So how long can like a building run on that with, you know, if there's an outage?
They can probably run
Probably
a couple,
Noel knows better than anybody.
probably a
with
couple
IS.
days, maybe.
The one here at City Hall will probably run a couple days. It was essential to put that in when we installed the data center in this building,
Yeah.
so that we'd have continuous power for the data center and the air conditioning that supports it. The other piece on that is I do know Kevin Abraham has to rotate that fuel, because even with testing, it doesn't fully drain the tank, and so there is an agreement with the co-op that they take some of that unused aged fuel out, and then it gets replaced with fresh fuel.
Okay. So that's included in this cost then?
I know it's a part of what they have to do, because Kevin can only keep that fuel in there so long, and then
Yeah.
he's gotta replace it.
Okay. Learned a few things. Cool. Cool, that's all I've got.
Okay, anyone else? It's kind of daydreaming there. I thought I do have one I wanted to ask about right here.
While he's looking, the learning leaks on page 21, the soil evaluation. So is that something that gets reimbursed back or whatever, or is that just something that we cover?
Yeah, so basically for some of these, the work that we've done to basically get the information we need to get good cost estimates, we've been splitting that
Sure.
cost.
Okay.
I just had one, we paid Shakopee Public Utilities for a transformer. Is that just an emergency that
Yeah.
we just
Sometimes
buy it
we
from
don't-
them? We don't replace it, we just buy it from them?
Well, then we probably put one in stock, but it can be an emergency type of thing where if we
I
have,
I don't think I've seen that before.
you know, we might have one that they don't, and so it's sort of an agreement between the utilities.
I kind of figured that,
Yeah.
but I just thought we would just replace it, but we paid, so we must just pay them, and everybody just gets their own and moves on then, so. Okay, that's all I had, I just had that one question. Okay, anyone else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Motion by Councilmember Hatfield. Second by Councilmember Grau to pay the bills. Discussion? Excuse me, hearing none. Nate, we call roll?
Councilmember Hatfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Yes.
Councilmember Wong?
Yes.
Councilmember Grau?
Yes.
Mayor Winchell?
Yes. All right, moves us to other business. How about Councilmember Hatfield?
Did you say Hatfield?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, great. I really was just gonna say this, the hometown holiday was awesome despite the weather. There were some people that came out, and did some shopping and the tree lighting, so it was wonderful to see the community out and about despite the weather. And then just a reminder that the Sip and Shop.
Sip and Shop.
I can't remember which order it goes in, Sip and Shop or Shop and Sip, whatever order you would like to do those things in.
I'd rather sip than shop.
You, maybe it's a some of us are gonna sip, some are gonna shop. Either way, that's happening this weekend, so the shops are open, restaurants, so hang out in downtown again, because it's amazing. And, yeah, that's what I'll say for now.
So, is that organized by Downtown Business Alliance? then?
Yes, so the idea there is, this past Saturday was jam-packed with activities, the football games and, Small Business Saturday, and all of that, so just another opportunity to go out and get to the shops,
Okay.
throughout the season, yeah.
And when we're talking sipping, we're talking coffee?
Coffee, hot cocoa, yeah,
Okay.
until later.
Thinking, what changed here? What am
Until
I-
later at Patron's, then
Oh, okay.
the sipping can change.
All right, that's good. Good to know. All right,
That's all I had.
you good?
Mm-hmm.
You're up.
Yeah. Okay, busy times. I attended the Festival of Trees fundraising event that was hosted by Auburn Homes. And it was a wonderful event. I was able to see the picture, and then in person when I was here, the tree that City Hall had done, so it was wonderful. So I went to that. I also completed the YMCA equity training. That was amazing as well. And I did attend Hometown Holidays with my son on Saturday, despite the weather. It was wonderful. We got to engage in all the activities. The display that was purchased by the 100 Club, or donated, it's beautiful. It's just gorgeous down there with Santa and his reindeer.
I heard
And-
somebody had trouble lighting it up.
No, the reindeers just took off slowly. They just,
He had a real Clark Griswold moment over there.
So was the delay in the switch?
He's like, I swear there was
There's a
only
communication
one.
between the switch.
oh, we're trying to
Yeah,
blame
the
me now?
radio.
Because I had the switch? Is that what we're doing?
Bounced around in my head for a little while before it worked.
And then yesterday's tree lighting at the Fireman's Park was wonderful. Got to see Santa a few times. Yeah, all really great community events, lots of people out. I was able to do the home celebration for the football team in the gym. We went up there for that, so that was wonderful as well. That's pretty much it. I'm sure someone will talk about the Martinita's table event and give the details, but that would be just the last thing. But yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. Former Councilmember Schultz just texted me and said the Vikings are up 14-7.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know where or what point of the game we're in, but I just seen it come across. All right, Mr. Mike.
Okay, so a few things here. I also attended the tree lighting event, which was really, really nice, really well done. Only comment about that was that it was really hard to hear the Chaska Chamber Chorale singing. Because it was just really hard to hear them. So it would be nice maybe next year.
That's Sunday night?
Yeah.
That's the Sunday night one.
And,
Yeah.
and the tree had some technical.
We've already actually talked about that maybe we take them and put them on the stage where the microphone will really work and carry over versus the wireless microphone. Because they were very bashful. I gave them the microphone and they still held it. Because who's ever holding it, then their voice carries the most. I knew. I walked away to get out of there and I couldn't hear and I was really close. So we got to work on that. And we'll talk to Tessa a little bit about seeing if we can't come up with maybe you doing that ticket. I hate to have them over there by themselves, but I think that they'll carry much better.
Yeah, but especially I know this kid's.
Or we got to put some wireless mics on them or something so that a number of them have them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that you could not hear them once you got 4 feet away from them.
Those kids work really hard and they're really good
No,
too. So it's.
I was close. I could hear them. They are very good. So.
Yes. Upcoming events, we talked briefly about Martinita's Table, which is this Thursday from 6 to 9 at the Chaska Event Center. It's free to everyone. Everyone's welcome. So look forward to seeing as many people there as we can. And Friday, December 6th, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m., Santa Claus is making a stop by the Chaska Community Center. So I think he'll be available for photos there. And Thursday, December 19th. So those who live along Highway Corridor 10, which is Engler Boulevard, between the Victoria to Chaska, which basically covers from, basically from Laketown Township, just west of County Road 43 to Chaska Boulevard, where it ends right before Chanhassen. That whole corridor is being looked at for improvements, and they're kind of want to get feedback in terms of what improvements to make, and this is for long-term planning. So certainly, anyone who lives along that, I would certainly encourage to be there if you have an interest because you travel or use that,
Corridor, are you talking County Road 10?
County Road 10, which is
he's
also
on 10.
Engler. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now,
Arboretum has
It's a
theirs
Carver County project.
as well. So.
Matt, do you know this? Because I ran into some people that I talked to, and they said that the meeting was like the 15th. But the card we got says it's the 5th. Is there, what I'm wondering is are they taking segments of that road and rather than having that whole stretch and everybody coming at once?
That's entirely possible. I don't know that.
Because this guy that I talked to was positive. I said, no, it's the 5th, because I knew it was the same night as Marnita's table. and
It
I-
wouldn't surprise me because the needs of different sections that are
Yes.
significantly different.
I have it as the
Broken into like 5
19th.
different sections.
Yours is the 19th?
I have it as
For the
December
County Road
19th.
10?
The 19th,
Yeah.
so the 19th meeting covers the entire length of it, but there's like 4 or 5 different project sections, and I think that may be one of the project
The
sections.
card, I looked at our card that we got, it says it's December 5th, which is
It could
Thursday.
be, yeah, it could just be for that particular section, because I think there was one of the sections was like through like, you know, from like 41 west, or 41 east and 41 west, and there's another part that's more of a rural section that's outside of town, when you get,
Yeah, to the
closer
railroad
to
tracks.
township.
You know, what we can do is, we can have Kevin put out just a whole list.
Yeah, we
of
should really.
What that is.
That'd be better,
Because, I mean,
because, you know.
maybe it's not as confusing as me, just because I got questioned about, am I coming to that one? I said, well, I don't have that one, mine says the 5th.
Yep,
The only one on Facebook is December 19th.
yep. And that's at the Chaska Community Center from 5 to 7.
I was
That's a
just
different
thinking,
one.
I
Oh,
know, but I was
okay.
thinking maybe that's what you were thinking of.
No, it's because
Okay.
I questioned.
Because
Connie found it, it
they're
says-
like coinciding with each other.
Oh,
You know what I mean? There's, yeah.
I think that.
Oh,
there's-
yeah, that was.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was thinking
and
about the
there's something
Arboretum
to be
one.
said for that.
The only one Carver County Public Works says on Facebook is the 19th.
That's just Thursday, right? Okay, and then on Tuesday, December 17th, from 5:30 to 7:30, at the Arboretum and the Macmillan Auditorium is another public hearing for the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan. So that's the one that kind of skirts, that's the southern part of that project. It actually works its way through Chaska, but also is Highway 5 and a bunch of work through Victoria and going up north, a little further north.
that's December 17th?
That's December 17th, yeah. So that's 2
Five
days
thirty
before
to
that.
7:30.
That's Tuesday.
That's the day I'm the guest bartender at Shram. How could anyone be at the Arboretum? How could that be possible?
I have no
There is a
idea.
lot of those Shram nights with guests that are coinciding with other things.
Well, it's Christmas time, it always coincides.
I'll make sure to send everyone up to Shram after they're done.
Yeah, talk about traffic space.
So,
It'll be a
and just,
traffic jam.
yeah, and the other thing that's kind of important too is that normally there's a fee to go into the Arboretum, but if you're attending the public hearing, tell them at the gate that you're attending the public hearing, and they will let you in for free. So, that's important to know, so that way you don't have to pay just to go to the hearing for this one.
That's a tough place to have a hearing with that lights going on there.
No, that's only on the weekends. It's only Friday through
It's the only weekends?
Sunday. I believe so, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was every night.
No, because they have busing with Southwest Transit. That you can take the bus and go in there.
I saw that. Okay. Sorry to keep.
Okay, just as with the snowfall, just a reminder to make sure to keep your fire hydrants and drains clear. I know that's something that, you know, it's easy to forget about since this is the first big snowfall we've had for a while. But, you know, as we enter winter, you know, I'll probably mention it a few times because, you know, if there's a fire in your neighborhood, the last thing you want is to have your firefighters spending their time digging out a fire hydrant rather than actually just plugging into it. So that's, you know, help out yourself and your neighbors. One of the things I was wondering about was, years ago, we used to do, when I was on planning commission, we would do like site visits once every couple of years with council to visit sites that had been completed or some that were in development, because it's really good to really see things, to see, you know, the context of things in terms of, you know, what that final state is, what that end product looks like. So for example, we talked about like the landing, and this, you know, obviously the landing's been long since finished, but we never went back and looked at the landing in terms of what does it look like in terms of a house or in terms of a facility of like mixed use with lower and middle income, right? Or some of the other projects that have been developed. And I was thinking it'd be probably healthy for us as a council, since there's a lot of new members here, to go and see some of these projects and see kind of like what it means in terms of some that are in the process of being developed, like the land where the Engler property where Hy-Vee's proposed, and seeing it in its current state today, because there's still a lot that has to be done in terms of building out Savannah Way and the road work, and what does that really look like in its raw state, as well as some of the projects have been finished, like, you know, whether it's the Chaska Heights Senior Living or the landing, for example, and what it looks like at the completed state. So, you know, so we talk about these things as, you know, as they kind of come to council. It helps us put these more into context of what does it really mean to our residents and our businesses.
Yeah, Kevin's been talking about doing that, to actually have it as something that we could bring the planning commission and the council together on those. And using the things that, for instance, the Jonathan Flats, one of the things that got talked about quite a bit there was the height of the building. And I think it was hard for people to imagine that a 4-story building was going to be the same height as Culver's on the other side of the road. To be able to go out and actually see that stuff, shows how the plans translate into reality.
Yep, and there were there's things like when we were talking about back when the 212 Medical Centers developed, and there was sight lines for the headlights from the parking lot, right? There was it's not going to impact the neighbors, and then sure enough, when it was developed, it's ended up being a different story, and so there was changes they had to make after the fact because of it. So I think it's healthy to see these things. That when I was on Planning Commission, I always encourage people to say go out and take a look at these things for yourself, because it looks different than it does on paper, and sometimes it's difficult to really get a sense of what the topography is from a topo map rather than actually being there physically and seeing it. Yeah. Last one here is I noticed that when at the state of the city addresses for the mayors, I know that at least one other city mentioned a senior commission. And I thought that was kind of an intriguing idea because we have a growing, an active older population that's growing. And one of the thoughts was that, as our community changes and, becomes more, I guess, older, as the demographic shifts, is
Why are you looking at Luke?
Was I looking? I was looking at Matt early.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
We just happened to be
Sure
in
where
that
you were
direction.
going.
So I was thinking that, it may be good to, to look at, is there maybe not this year, but in the next couple of years, to start thinking about, is there possibly a need for some sort of commission to make sure that we incorporate those voices as we grow as a community and our community changes in that demographic?
Yeah, we could take a look at that. I think one of the things I always caution on when you create a commission, making sure that you know exactly what their objective is.
Exactly.
Well, isn't that kind of like our Human Rights Commission,
Well,
everybody, it's education about everybody in the community, and I just think of that as something that would fit there. I think it's important, I agree.
Yeah,
But I'm do we already have a commission that kind of lends itself to that?
Well, I think that when they were talking about it, it was a very different sort of charter, and their charter was to look at creating opportunities, specifically, or either opportunities or things around activities, engagement for seniors, because that was a very specific need in terms of that. And I know, in the police department, I know that Chief Knight had chartered that senior community and the senior the senior. So it's kind of like a seminar, or not seminar, that event, right? So. And so there's different things that go on around that, but I know that's just a growing part of our community, and it's something that, just want to throw out there. Is there a need for, is there a need for that?
Would that fall under the AOAs, the active older adults that get, they already get together, they do functions together.
Yeah.
There's a group that meets at the lodge that do a lot of that stuff, the fishing with friends. We maybe not have a commission, but I think that we maybe have more than other cities that, because I'm with Matt. If we don't have a clear, really, what their function is, it's hard to create a commission and said, here you are, because sometimes it creates a different animal that you might
Is
not be.
the active older adults or the lodge, are those membership, you have to be a member of the community center?
You do not.
So it's free for anybody?
I think
Okay.
So I think the question
That
was
might-
more of let's look at, was to say that could we look at what other communities are doing as the populations are older and see what options are out there? Maybe it's a commission, maybe it's not, but to say that, it's a growing population. The reality is that the demographic shift is just moving that direction. So I just want to make sure that we're not reacting to it, that we're kind of being on the front end of that, regardless of what it is. That's pretty much the ask here. May or may not be a commission, but just to make sure that we have, some way to kind of look at this and kind of more as a holistic group rather than kind of people kind of piecemeal and kind of doing things. And can we support them a little more? Can we provide better support in as a larger, whatever it is?
What we can do is we can reach out to the State Board on Aging and have them provide us some information with what cities are doing that, what's their purpose, what are cities doing if they're not commissions. They have all that information, so we could gather that.
Yep, sounds good.
What city had it?
It was Chanhassen. I think Eden Prairie might have mentioned something about it too, I'm not sure. But with the Eden Prairie obviously wasn't there, I know Chan did. And Chan just started theirs this year.
Okay.
So I think that's all I've got.
A few things. A couple things just to piggyback on. We talked about Fireman's Park and the tree lighting, which was great. I also just want to shout out to the Public Works. Right about the time of people were starting to descend down there, everything froze. And so they were quickly out there throwing salt, which was great. It was great to see. I mean, just about the timing of it perfect. Everything got slick pretty quickly. So just a shout out to them for getting in their trucks out, getting the salt and getting people safe there. The other thing
Add to that community center staff the Fireman's Park staff that were able to get the sidewalks down there. They were out.
Yeah, our staff Clay at the curling center was out there with a bucket too.
Oh, I parked up in the upper park, the veterans. That was an interesting walk down.
Oh, I bet it was.
Oh, yeah.
slide right down.
It pretty much.
Was that full, huh? Go over there, was that full?
I was one of the first people to park there, but it was filling in, yeah.
I saw a lot of people coming across
Yeah.
the bridge. So,
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. It was kind of cool watching people come over from the bridge there.
Yeah, it was a fun walk. It just icy. That's all.
Could have been more fun. I know we talked about the Chaska Hawks in the football game. Actually interesting what I thought, and then they talked about the community and the crowd. So it was a no-brainer for my family and I to ride the bus in there. And so when we were waiting there to get on the bus, they had mentioned, someone who had connected to the Southwest had mentioned that they had 2 buses and they had planned for 4 if they needed to. Well, they ended up having 6 that they needed, and they actually ended up having to pull a bus from the Arboretum tour to do it. So they did a good job. You got us there, they got us. But I mean, just amazing the fact that, they've never done that because it's first, right? And, 6 full buses of residents. And obviously people drove there and light railed it there. But I thought that was kind of amazing because I was kind of curious how many buses it would need. But yeah, they had 2. They were thinking, 4 just in case. And all of a sudden they needed 6 and they were able to meet that demand. And
So I had actually talked to Len to find out, because I had been getting asked, but primarily I didn't want to drive down there, I wanted to ride the bus. And he originally had said, no, we're not, he said, I just financially can't do it. But realized it was the wrong week, then realized that, because he already takes Gophers fans down there. So he took the 4 buses, he figured, he's already got them down there, they can come back and then take Chaska folks down there. And it was gonna be, he said, I have 3 to 4 buses, that's it. And I got on the 4th bus, and we were already moving before the 2 o'clock hour, which was the time they were supposed to leave. I was on the 4th bus and I was already gone. So, as Len, I was texting Len back and forth, and he said, yeah, Dave Jacobson pulled an audible, and he says he got some more buses. But they had anticipated transporting 200 people. They transported 437.
Wow.
So it was more than double, but they were standing them in the aisles. They were filling those buses plumb full. So yeah, that is a great shout out. I had that too for Southwest Transit about being able to pull that off. And, the weather changed a lot. I mean, a lot of people I talked to said, no, I'm driving. It's Saturday. I'm driving. All of a sudden I got there at 1:30 and the line was already out into the parking garage. So, it was amazing. So, yeah, you're right. Thanks to Southwest Transit for pulling that off. That took a lot of people off the road too.
And then I'll just share a couple highlights. So I'm on this is a mouthful here, Eastern Carver County Schools Community Education Advisory Council. If you got that now.
Okay.
So they met actually Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., which actually works very well for me, to be honest. It was shortly after the referendum, so as you can imagine, a lot of the conversation was a little bit about the referendum. But some of the interesting things that I found kind of interesting was a little bit of some ECFE on wheels. Kind of rotating through the communities at the libraries. So if you can't go, you can bring your child and bring a family to the libraries. Some of the, Clover Fields, and they also work with the communities too. So Clover Fields, Carver Crossings, and so they have a truck where they have these toys and interactions, and they have parents and education, which is really cool. Some of the other things they're kind of doing is coffee and a chat with a parent educator. So they have a series of programs where, right about school drop-off time, where if you drop your kid off, they go to school and you need to get some information about, they have topics like cultivating growth mindset, elementary age discipline, Raising Life-Ready Kids. You can meet, it's really targeted for grades K, parents of kids K through third grade. They're finishing up at La Academia and the Victoria schools here in 12/6 and 12/13 of December. And then they'll start the elementary age discipline, started in January, and it starts in Bluff Creek on the 3rd. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But what I thought was actually most interesting was that they actually had the program coordinator for preschool. And so, you know, I won't go into the details, but a lot of the preschool information got put out on the referendum about the information. But it just, I will not go in there, but the numbers that I thought were interesting, 700 plus preschool age kids enrolled in the programs and really are kind of at capacity. You know, some of the referendum impacts is that some of that space that might get used gets impacted. But actually, I think what the coolest part was is they highlighted a little bit some of the software that they've developed in-house as well as purchased to track kindergarten readiness. You know, it's personal to me with my wife being an educator as well, the importance of preschool and readiness for kindergarten. You can't underestimate, and that's a huge value to the community. And so they track all of the students that go through the preschool and in the kindergarten to see how they're doing. And kind of can keep track and kind of have some pretty cool software. They can break it out by demographics. They can break it out by, you know, if they have any special needs or anything like that to see kind of where their readiness is and where they're on their testing and everything like that, which was pretty cool. I mean, I just can't say enough about the importance of really that preschool education and that kindergarten readiness. It's probably the most critical piece when you setting a kid up for success. So 700 I thought was just an amazing number. And really within our Eastern Carver County school system here. So just thought I'd bring that back to the council and share some of that information.
Did you volunteer for that, or did you get notified?
I am on, that's the one I signed,
the
that's my
commission, or the-
commission or council that I signed up for.
Oh, okay.
So and it's
Chris
actually,
Schultz used to be the rep on that.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's pretty good, like I said, because it works well with, I have a lot of interest in that. And my family takes advantage of some of those, of the offerings, so, yeah, it was fun to hear that information. And that is all I have.
Okay. Luke, anything?
Nope.
Matt?
Nope.
Is there anything, any updates? We're still all good to go on Marnita's table? We don't
Yep,
really.
I did check with them on Wednesday, and they had over 100 people RSVP'd, which is good, so.
Okay, because it was in Sunday's paper,
Oh, was it? Okay.
in the metro section
Oh,
saying
okay.
it's open. So I figured that would probably add a few people.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Nate, anything?
Just on the Marnita's table topic, just to let you know, we have set a date for the second event to happen. That'll be on February 18th. I don't have a time to share yet, but I think it's a safe assumption
Probably
it'll be about the
same, 6 to 9.
Same time, same place type of a thing.
Okay,
So
all right. Anything else?
that's all I got.
Noel, anything? Mike? Fun riding the bus with me, wasn't it?
I had to stand the whole way, but it was.
Yeah. Did he sit?
He was, no, he very nicely gave his seat up because it was full. I can't stand with my knee yet. Standing is a killer. I'd rather walk than stand. So I didn't stand. All right, just a couple things. First off, I want to thank Mike for doing the State of the City. I too will watch. I watched it as well, and you did an awesome job. So thank you very much for doing that, so that I could attend that Met Council meeting. Even though once I got there, they changed everything up. But I don't know. That's, you know what those meetings are like. But if you weren't there, then something else would have happened. So, but thank you for that, and thank you, Michaela, for covering me so I could go to the football game. Kind of feel like I got everybody covering me here, but it's not, it's the first time it's ever had that happen, so. But thank you for covering at the Hometown Holidays. I went out early in the morning, it was pretty quiet, and it was pretty nasty. It was raining and sleeting, but apparently it got a little better in the afternoon, because
Yeah, it
I
was like
heard
a pretty
things
snow.
picked up.
Yeah.
It was like a really pretty snow as we did the tree lighting.
And so thank you.
And I think people liked that you were at the game. We talked about how you were bringing the pride with the shirt, you know?
All right.
So they were excited.
Well, good. So thank you guys for doing that. And I too want to thank the Downtown Business Alliance. They're part of that, putting that all together. And that's become an important holiday, I think, for this time of year, and a social gathering. It really gets a lot of different communities. Now, I did hear that St. John's Live Nativity now is this Saturday.
Oh, yes, yes, it is.
So for anybody that either missed it or thought they missed it, just be aware, because that is, they really do a nice job. It's fairly quick, but they have the live animals there. It's a nice deal. So they're gonna be a standalone this year, so please, support St. John's and go down there. I'm assuming it starts around 7-ish, because we get done, wouldn't that be about right, Nate? Wait,
was gonna
we do
say-
that at 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
6.
probably more like 6.
Yeah.
So I'd probably get there at 5:45, because they used to walk down from the park and they'd go carol at Auburn Manor and stuff. So I would say like about 5:45, right across from St. John's in that park a lot there at the school, so. I want to thank, again, the 100 Club, which if you're not aware of what that is, the 100 Club is a nonprofit organization that basically fundraises, and they purchase all of the decorations and things that are lit up in the city. There's no tax dollars that go to pay for those devices, so, and like I said, if you haven't seen the Santa and Sleigh in City Park, please get down there and see it. It's an awesome display, and all the wreaths this year are new that are on the light poles. So thanks to the 100 Club, they had their event Sunday night just prior to the Fireman's Park lighting, which it really works out well. I think it's awesome that we go there. That's from 4 to 6. You step outside, we do the tree lighting, then everybody comes back in. Santa's there, all the kids' activities and the treats. I think whoever came up with that system, it really works out well. The event center is just a huge boost for it, so.
By the way, that live nativity is at 3 and 5 p.m. on December 7th.
Oh, good, thanks for looking that up.
Yep.
So 3 and 5. And then I think we hit the Highway 10 corridor study, I already got that. Christmas in May has a benefit at Shram, so if you're interested in helping Christmas in May, that's this Thursday. The new AT&T phone store that's opening up, what is that? Is that called something that where the Dunkin' Donuts, is there a name for it? Anybody know?
Oh, the Plaza, yeah.
I call it the hot spot.
Okay, yeah. Only us would know what that, across from Fireman's Park, there's a AT&T is the newest shop that is slated. They're gonna have, grand opening ribbon cutting December 12th, at 10 a.m. I assume it's open to the public, so, if you're interested, you can certainly come down there. So that'd be the second of 5 buildings there that are, now would be open, is that right?
Yes,
5 total?
There's 3 buildings, but 5 stalls.
5 businesses, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that day. We did have a meeting this week with or last week with our Met Council rep, Deb Barber. She came out and just with all the changes that we're going through, she said that she'd be more than willing to come out and talk to us, so I think we're really fortunate. We have a really good rep right now that is willing and able. And she's also now, I don't know if else has heard, but the Met Council chair stepped down a few weeks ago, and Deb is applying to be the Met Council chair. So, so twofold, so I'm sure she was doing a little campaigning at the same time, but that's okay. We would support her in that role, so thanks to her for that, so. And then lastly, before our next meeting would be the, help me, 16th, here again at 7 o'clock. Again, just one last time, congratulations to the Chaska Hawk football team. That's an amazing feat, and I totally agree about what a community event that has really turned this into. So congratulations to them, and thanks to all of those guys for coming in tonight. I'm sure it's the last thing they want to do with the Vikings playing tonight was to come here and be at a council meeting, but thank you for.
Makes a few of us.
Yeah. And I did get a text from Mr. Schultz, it's 17-10, Vikings at halftime. So, all right, if we get home, if we close this.
Well, I
thing up,
got a
we'll
little
get
bit
this-
more to go, but I'll make it
Oh,
quick.
that's right, we got more to do, so we gotta continue our.
You don't have to
our,
stay, Mike.
We gotta continue our work session, so. With that, last call. If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Long,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hubbard to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. We're adjourned. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for being here.